Budgeting is boring, and I want to make it easier for lazy people like me to make a budget and stick to it. So that's what we're doing today. Let's go. So there's two main ways to make it super easy to budget that I've found to work. Today we're gonna nail it down, and so you can walk away using these things today to make sure you stick to your budgeting 100% of the time. The first of those is using some kind of template that's pre-made for you, so you don't have to create a template and have to worry about all the nuances that come with that. And so I've made one that I'll share with you today, and we'll walk through it. And the second is using an app, because apps are so powerful, and I'll talk about what I like and what I don't like. Apps are just such a powerful way to reduce how much work you have to do a budget, so it's always kind of done automatically for you, and you don't have to worry about importing all these transactions and all this stuff because it's already connected to your bank accounts and it'll flow right to that app. Now I want to talk about why I find budgeting so powerful and why I love working out lately, because they're kind of connected, and it all comes down to this idea of tracking. Like, I used to work out and just kind of go in each day doing the same reps, roughly what I thought. Oh, maybe I got 6 reps last time, maybe now I'll try 7, or maybe I'll try 9 this time. And I couldn't really nail down how many reps I'd done or what weight I had done until I started tracking. And when I started tracking what I could do each and every workout, only then could I know what I was doing well and what I sucked at and what I need to work on. And then I started loving the gym. Crazy enough, as much as I didn't like it before because I wasn't seeing progress, all of a sudden, when I started tracking and seeing these things, these numbers written down, and the weight associated with it, the reps associated with it, and I could see them increasing over time, this really motivated me, and I started loving the gym, and I still do that. Similarly, if you're thinking about someone who is a good chef and someone who just cooks a random meal at home once in a while, whose food tastes better? Typically the chef, right? And why is that? Is it because they're very talented? Probably partially, but why are they talented and why are they so much better at cooking? And it comes down to tracking their progress. Once again, what do you see a chef do all the time when they're making food? They taste it. Sometimes they even taste raw ingredients to see how it would feel in the person's mouth when they're eating the food after they've made it. So they're testing their ingredients. They're testing sauces while they make it. They're testing all these different kinds of foods once it's done, and only by doing that, they incrementally improve how they make their dishes over time, and then they become much better, much more quickly by doing this. And I gotta admit, when I read about this on James Clear's website, which is the author of Atomic Habits, which I really love, as you guys know, I started reading about this, and he had a really good article describing this, and I started to realize how much tracking things really impacted my life and how important it has been to me in order to find success in certain areas of my life. And so because of that importance, I decided today we'll make, first of all, give you guys a template to use so that you have no excuse not to take action, and second, to just reiterate the importance of just doing what you need to do and tracking everything. James Clear talks about habit tracking with your good habits as well. So if you're doing something good and you have a series of habits you do in the morning, by marking them off on your calendar, kind of knocking them off as a domino or Xing it off in a calendar, each and every little habit that you do, you start to see these trends of when you do them, and you want to kind of keep the trend going. It's kind of a game. Another thing I came across in terms of tracking was Alex Hormozi, who runs $100 million businesses and runs acquisition.com. If you guys aren't familiar with him, he's a very big figure in the personal finance space. He talks about this idea of tracking your bank account balances, which he did from being very broke to very wealthy, and he said it absolutely changed his mindset. And I've actually been doing this for a couple months, and I'll tell you, it's so powerful. So all you need to do is have a spreadsheet, have the account number or name or whatever you want to do, and then fill in the balance every single day, and then do a simple scatter plot to the right of that, and you will see how this works with your brain, because as you see those numbers grow, you want to keep going. You want to spend less, you want to earn more, and you want to make that curve go straight up and get bigger over time. And that's such a powerful thing if you're trying to get better at something, having that motivation and that intrinsic challenge for yourself to do that. And what I've learned is that it's much the same for budgeting. If you want to save money, you might be doing it right now without a budget. How well is that going? Let's be really honest here. It's not going well, is it? Didn't think so, because I've done the exact same thing. Tried to save money and then sat down at the end of the month and been like, what the hell? Where did that money go? I was supposed to save $200 more in last month, but instead I spent $200 more. How is that even logically possible when it's in my head? And that's the problem. It's in your head. You need to track it. You need to write it down, see cold, hard figures of what you're spending and what you're earning, and that is the only way to make sure you spend less. And by doing this, we're setting very clear goals, we're seeing what we spend on needs versus wants within our budget, and of course, we're tracking our net worth to see over time how our saving and not spending as much is working in our favor to make us more valuable. Okay, so I'm gonna be 100% transparent and honest with you guys. I tried Mint for a month, and this was rated to be the best free budgeting app as far as I could find. So I decided to try this one. Honestly, I hated it. It was not for me at all.
Wow, this is garbage.
And although it seems like it would be the perfect fit for somebody who's lazy, even though I kind of am. I don't know, I'm just too meticulous maybe, but I just did not like it and felt like I had no control over my budget or my spending whatsoever. And that's partly because it automatically just imports into the app and you don't really have to do any number crunching or anything. It's all just kind of created for you, and if you allow it, it'll send you notifications about your spending and your categories. I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and things like the fact that I couldn't add my student loan account, it was just very difficult, and loans only through institutions that it recognizes can be added. Second was that e-transfers and other kinds of transfers between accounts, it logged very oddly. It was thinking it was income or then thinking it was dog food in some cases, which is, don't know how that worked. But yeah, just kind of triggered me. I didn't love it, and it didn't have great potential for me anyways. Again, I think it could have value to you, but just for the sake of having an app that you can work with, this is definitely the best app. And let's run through some of the perks. So what is it exactly? It's a free app that allows you to budget and connect all of your different accounts, which includes your credit card, lines of credit, debit cards, whatever you need to import transactions, and it does that automatically once you've connected your accounts as far back as the accounts will let it. It'll backdate your budget a couple of months from whenever the transactions are from, and it even includes your credit score and credit report right in the app, which is very useful. It also tracks your net worth, and it can even give you categories and spending limits for certain categories and areas of your budget, and then send you notifications when you're nearing and when you're over those budget limits. The nice thing is though, for those e-transfers and things I mentioned before, you can set a rule so it'll recognize when an e-transfer is coming in, or anything else for that matter. You can set a rule to categorize it as something. So for example, if you have your employer sending you money and it classifies that wrong for some reason, you can just label that as income and it'll plop it in that bucket and you're good to go. But what I also didn't like is that the spending was kind of after the fact, and you only really knew your budget after it was already over. And aside from the goals you're setting for each category, which you don't even have to change every month, they can just stay the same and be very passive, which is also kind of a problem, I suppose. There's not really any preemptive measures for you to take in order to kind of take your budget into your own control and make sure you're staying within the bounds. So kind of defeats the purpose of a budget. I like to use it as something to really take it into my own hands, and this app just didn't do it for me. So again, might be great for you if you're just starting out. Very powerful, has some great insights, great charts, great information in there. Just was not for me, and for the seasoned budgeter, probably won't be for you either. If you're picky like your guy Jay here, you love pre-made templates, and that's what I've sworn by for so many years already, and I decided, you know what, let me just make my own. I've used so many different templates over the years. Some of them I loved, some of them I hated, and I've used all of the best parts of each one and kind of combined it into this budget template here, which of course you can find right down below free of charge. You can use that. I've used it for a little while now and I really like the layout, and of course feel free to download it, customize it however you want with colors or whatever else helps you stay on your budget, and just really make it your own and use it every single month. That's the most important part. One thing that I really hated was that a budget was only for 1 month, so I'd end up having tens of spreadsheets every single year. And so I've created one that has 12 different tabs, and you can just download an Excel file for every year, and it keeps it much less cluttered on your desktop or wherever else you save your files. And it'll just allows you to kind of keep track of each year individually and see how you did within that year. What I've also done that I really loved what that one budget did is I've used conditional formatting in order to make sure that if you're spending more than your goal, the cell at the top will turn red when you're over your goal, and we've also got the deviation percentage that turns red and also green when you're doing well. So it's an easy indicator to see how you did for the month and just to have this visual cue of that you're doing well or that you're not doing well. Finally, on each individual tab, I also added the net worth tracker, which I hated that it was on a different sheet every time on some budgets that I used because I would always overlook it, and for this reason, I put it on the same page so you see it every month. You can update your balances and value of whatever you have, and you can see your net worth slowly growing over time. Finally, and what I love most about this template that I've created, and obviously what I'll be adding to over time as I think of more ways to utilize this, is that final tab after a whole year. So it actually tracks and keeps track of all the spending and your budget and your goal and your actual and your deviation from that throughout the year by month, and it'll automatically populate and create these awesome graphs for you to check your progress, and again to make it that challenge with yourself, because that's what really moves the needle here and it creates such a big difference. So seeing these graphs, I've got a net worth graph and how much you deviated from your goal, and these are two of the great metrics to start with, and of course I'll also be adding much more as time goes on, and it'll automatically update in that Google Sheet, so you guys can go ahead and download that whenever I do make changes, and of course I'll let you know when I do that. The way I've created this tracker is that I wanted to also separate needs from wants as well, because needs are things that we obviously need and wants are what we want, but traditional budgets just do it by category, and you're not really aware of what you really should be spending and what you shouldn't be spending. So I found it very helpful to separate it between needs and wants so that it's very clear which is which and which you should be focusing cutting spending on. And once you've set your goals at the start of each month, which I very much advise you to do just at the end of the month when you're doing your budget for the previous month and filling in the actual column, set your goals for the next month and then come back and see how you compare to those goals at the end of that month. Don't be passive and just fill in the goal and actual at the end of the month. That kind of defeats the purpose. You want to set intentional goals that really mimic how you want to be spending throughout the month and what your income expectations are going to be, and then seeing at the end of the month how your actual compares to that and how you need to improve the next month and adjust your goals accordingly. Whether you want to be completely hands-off and just have budgeting kind of on the back burner, or you're a beginner and you just don't really know what you're doing yet, that's completely fine. I would definitely recommend using Mint and just getting a handle on what all these different things mean and looking at your credit score, seeing how much you actually spend when it's automated and how much income you make and how much is left over, and then maybe migrating to something like a template or a more advanced budgeting technique over time. Personally though, I love just being able to plug and play in a template and just having kind of that physical sense that I'm actually doing my budget and then I'm sitting down and putting in these values and actively taking a role in my finances. Feels really good to me. If you're someone like me, then definitely take advantage of that, and that template again is down below if you want to download it. And once you've got the art of budgeting down, I've got a video right here that you can watch right now telling you exactly how to invest from not knowing anything to investing in your first stocks. So check that out if you're already done with budgeting and you're ready to move on to the next step.